Hello, my friends Henrik and Hans, and I will introduce the topic of our discussion. I'm reading the fascinating Infinite Potential, The Life and Times of David Bohm by David Beach. So the title is again The Infinite Potential, The Life and Times of David Bohm, the great physicist. And in this, I'm reading from page 250. Excuse me, 248, 2 pages earlier. Bohm. So Bohr, the Danish physicist, and Einstein had used informal, everyday language to speak about their ideas. While physicists define their mathematical language with great care, ordinary spoken language is normally taken for granted. It was at this level that Einstein and Bohr parted company. Without realizing it, the two men were using words and concepts in subtly different ways. The confusion and fragmentation of physics, Bohm came to believe, had its origins deep within language itself. End quotation. And we can also read further that language now became Bohm's passion. He studied it with as much vigor as he had previously studied physics. Schumacher, that is his colleague, asked if any concept can be communicated in which the form of expression truly matches its content. Quantum theory denies independently existing objects and properties, which means that there can be no it or the in the quantum world. For a time, Bohm and Schumacher attempted to talk without using such parts of speech. Since even nouns themselves represent isolated objects, much of their interaction ended up in active silence. And Bohm and Schumacher even published together a paper on the failure of communication between Bohr and Einstein. This came out only after Bohm's death, this publication. And it's interesting that Schumacher, he followed Bohm to Switzerland to meet the Indian guru Krishnamurti. Mm-hmm. Yes, and Bohm was a great friend of this Indian guru Krishnamurti. And here there's a discussion of the dialogue between Krishnamurti and Schumacher. And Schumacher argued that in a certain sense, the word is the thing. The word is the thing, said Schumacher. Words affect thoughts and emotions. They are real things in the world and induce changes in the operation of the brain. But as Schumacher pressed the point, Krishnamurti kept repeating, the word is not a thing, in quotation. And emotional pressure put up to such an extent that the dialogue broke down. So what could we say here? That's in a sense, I think Krishnamurti was right, and Schumacher I cannot agree with Schumacher. What do you think? Do you think that the Indian guru was right in this point?
Well, it's very interesting because Schumacher goes in the way of the later Wittgenstein and philosophical investigations. the very famed language game shows that the word and what's in the world is more or less the same thing. It's more a degree, going from the object, going to the meaning of the whole thing. But essentially, one could crudely say they are of the same essence, according to Wittgenstein. And it could be that I have to read Schumacher a little bit more. This is extremely interesting, of course, Kalle. Thank you very much. But it seems that he's going the way of Wittgenstein, actually, to say that the word is the thing. That participate in the wholeness. They're not from another place, so to speak, and not outside this world. We regularly see it, we call it representationalism or something like that. And then we're meaning words, or at least their meanings, are not part of this world, they're somewhere else. But I don't know, it's incredibly interesting. Are there any further things about that dialogue in the book, or is that it?
Yes, so Schumacher, he said that he noticed that Krishnamurti emphasized absolute words like never, totally, and utterly. It seemed to him, that is to to Schumacher, that this sort of language was getting in the way of what he was trying to say. He wondered why Krishnamurti himself had never questioned his particular use of language. So in any of this meeting between Schumacher and Krishnamurti, this meeting was a watershed for Bohm. For while he must have already noticed Krishnamurti's way of speaking, he had not openly acknowledged it. From now on, it became another nagging question what he harbored about Krishnamurti. It also exposed a highly sharp emotional rift between these two important people in Bohm's life. Whenever he recalled that meeting, it was always with a degree of emotion. At times he portrayed Donald Schumacher as overexcited or possibly even unbalanced. Schumacher catalyzed Bohm's further explorations of the role and structure of language. Indo-European languages like English, French, and German rely heavily upon nouns, Bohm noted. We speak and think in terms of categories and objects in interaction. To Bohm, perception and communication were indivisible, which means that we also perceive a world composed of localized objects in interaction. This idea is clearly at odds with quantum theory, which speaks of process and transformation rather than object and interaction, and so on.
That's very interesting. I just have to comment, because there is an echo going on when you're talking, Kalle. Maybe you should mute and unmute, if that helps. Let's see, you can try again.
Yes, hello.
Oh, how weird. The echo is still going on. It's incredibly interesting. So what you're saying is that Bohm and Schumacher, they came to some sort of disagreement, or was it Schumacher and Krishnamurti that came to a disagreement?
It's really both ways. So it's more at this point it's more between Krishnamurti and Schumacher. But I think at the end, Bohm shares Schumacher's point that Schumacher argued that in a certain sense the word is a thing. So yes.
How very interesting. Of course, since I having like a personal relationship to Krishnamurti makes it even more interesting, but it's interesting anyway. In the end, I have to inform the listeners as well. Both Krishnamurti and Bohm became part of a duo that toured the world and became very, very acknowledged in different circles, especially New Age, but also science. And they wrote things together, and they interacted a lot. There is a comment that Bohm often, so to speak, influenced the language of Krishnamurti. So some of the language that Krishnamurti had in the end was taken from the advice of Bohm. To make it even more interesting, Krishnamurti had a great connection earlier on with the analytical philosophy. And this maybe could show even more depth for the quotes that you've been taking up there. He was part of the circle of analytical philosophers in England, and he had great contact with, for instance, the author Aldous Huxley, who was, well, at least initially very much into analytical philosophy, which was the trend at that moment. If I'm just thinking here out of the blue, I'd say that could have been that Krishnamurti got influenced in that earlier age by the analytical philosophy, and also in some way, I would say, without studying the subject further, that could be the default position you have, that there is a difference between words and language, because that was finally proven, so to speak, in science itself, in quantum physics. And since I gather both Schumacher and David Bohm were proponents of quantum physics, that it's quite natural that they say that a word and the thing is the same, essentially the same, even though it's a difference in degree. That's also the problem when it comes to looking at the atom model and all that. I think Bohr, when he said that don't see this model as real, what he means by that, it was constructed like a model, and it should still be a model, nothing else. And that goes to words as well. They have a construction date, they have a definite use, and you should stick to that use. And words are as much tools as the actual tools. I really like that slate example from Philosophical Investigations, where it becomes very clear that you can't really differentiate between the slate, alltså murasleven, and the word slate. You come to realize it doesn't make any sense to have them different.
Yes, I have also thought much about this thing. For instance, in the Hebrew Bible, you have the noun davar. It means both word and thing.
Yeah.
When you have the Ten Commandments, we translate. So the word commandments it's not a precise translation. It's really 10 words or 10 things. So in Hebrew, word and thing is synonymous.
Oh yeah. It's the same thing.
So in this sense, we could say Schumacher is agreeing with the Hebrew Bible or the Hebrew conception, while Krishnamurti does not agree with the Hebrew Bible, so to say, in this sense. But the thing is, of course, very difficult. And the first sense, let us say at the beginning, I can give you actually a concrete example from I have PhD in Greek, so I can give you a concrete example. The word for table in ancient Greek has undergone interesting. So the trapeza is if you go today to Greece and you see trapeza, you can see the word trapeza in front of a bank. Trapeza is a modern Greek word bank. Yes, when Jesus for 2000 years ago, he went So if you read in the New Testament about Jesus, when he turns over the tables in the temple, Jesus was angry that people were selling merchandise in the temple. So he threw tables over there, the tables where they have the money. So Jesus turned over these tables. And these tables, the word for these tables is trapeza. There's development in this word, and this word becomes the Greek word for table, for bank. But initially, trapeza meant only table, like where you put the food, but eventually it became the Greek model for bank. So we can ask, so initially, what is the right word? Where is the thing and where is the object?
Very good, very good.
So is the trapeza, you can spell it out, is the thing with the 3 legs or 4 legs. It depends how you interpret the word. Where is the truthfulness, the etymology of this word? What is the real thing in this word? It's a tricky question, of course. Where is the origin? So if you go to a bank in Greece today, are you going into a building with 4 legs or 3 legs? Or what is, how should you interpret the words? Thing and word, are they connected also? So it's a tricky question. So it's no wonder that Bohm and Einstein didn't came to an agreement.
No, it's true, because you could actually say that they come to discover more or less the point made in philosophical investigations when they did quantum physics. They tried to, I think Einstein would like to separate representation and the actual thing somehow. He felt it should be separated. There should be a distance in between what you're saying and what you're referring to. And his general relativity, it's somewhere midway, I'd say, because some other concepts are the things, without a doubt, but some other concepts are estranged from what they are. There is a perceived distance. Whereas in quantum physics, the word and the thing is exactly the same. And oddly enough, this is the point of Paul Feyerabend when he's talking about the new particles being developed in CERN in Switzerland, where you have this enormous particle accelerator. And he meant, and partly he was in agreement with some of the scientists there. He was working together with them practically. And they're also saying that when the word come up, you have the particle as well. When you have the representation, you have the particle. It's extremely hard to separate the Higgs boson, its description of what it is, its representation, from the Higgs boson. It's completely impossible. It's the same thing. And this is very funny, because when you read about the Higgs boson in the newspaper, as a newsreader, you get the perception, they discovered a new thing out there. Well, it's partly true, but it's a bit more to it than that. They discovered the representation and the thing, and they did it at the same time.
Yes, so the thing is that Bohm saw that thinking and everything is that the quantum world is verb-based in Bohm's conception. So Bohm created a hypothetical verb-based language he called the Rehoboth. So that's fascinating, and he and this idea about this hypothetical verb-based language. He published it in a book called Wholeness and Disorder.
Oh, did he now? I forgot that. I read the book as many years ago. Wow, did he now?
So it's interesting that when we think about etymology, so this is really the same point that Heidegger also makes, that the real we should always think about everything in like verbs, and more precisely everything is action. So it's unnecessary to think like trapeza, is it bank or is it table? We should instead think in relation, like a verb, what I'm doing with the table, what I'm doing with the bank is in relation to us, everything. So we should not see so it's an object, bank is a thing in the verb, but it's really what I'm doing with the bank, with the money.
Well, I could take myself as an example there, because I had an experience with trapeza just recently. Going to the bank, it's called trapeza in Greece. I was looking for the ethnic trapeza, but I also had a faint feeling, that was just faint, that people were referring to tables as trapeza as well. It was a very dim perception. I think I used it in my sense. I thought it was two different meanings. I didn't make the connection. It was the same word. So I referenced poine trapeza. I think I said sometime, where is the table? And I had the bank. So me as a person, I did not make the connection. So I didn't have what an analytical philosopher would say, a true meaning in myself. But every time I used the word, I used it correctly in the language game. I didn't make any mistakes. Still, I didn't have a private representation of them being the same. And that's really funny. That's how it works. So you can still do like using the word, not having the concept of the word or the meaning of the word. So in some way, Wittgenstein really has a point there. It's in the doing you are using the word. And of course, me as a non-Greek speaker, I will make mistakes. But Wittgenstein would say that is very complicated how to explain what mistake you made, but you need to train more, or you need to be born in the country. But it does not mean that there is a hidden rule somewhere that tells everybody what is the meaning of the word trapeza. There's no hidden meaning. And that, of course, is his private language game, private language argument. That there are no hidden rules that tell people what the word means. So what is meaning? Yeah, meaning is on the same level as any other word in the language. It doesn't have the word meaning and its use. It doesn't have a superior or doesn't base the whole language. It's on equal level. So we can still use the word meaning. You can ask a person, for instance, a Greek person, I can ask him, what is the meaning of the word trapeza? And he can answer me. But that doesn't mean that the word meaning has a more substantial or fundamental doing in language. And I'd say that's very similar to what Wittgenstein is trying to tell us, that there is a misuse in language that causes philosophical problems.
I'm thinking about the Hopi Indians that they only have verbs, right?
Yeah.
They don't have like objects. And it seems like this idea that we have objects that are independent of its surroundings somehow doesn't fit with quantum physics either. Where they have these wave functions and probability waves and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
An object doesn't seem to fit in either Hopi or quantum physics.
No, not at all, not at all. It would be very hard. I think that's a very good point you make there, Henry. It would be very, very hard to transform Hopi language so they would have objects. There wouldn't be a problem for Hopi language to take in maybe some new word, and they need a new word for computer, but that has to be more verb-like, because the foundation, the language game of Hopi language is so different, and that you cannot change. And another comment there could be that somebody would say, maybe you have to construct the language from the beginning then and fix it, make it like a sort of an Esperanto Hopi language. That wouldn't work either, because a language is much more than the words and the grammar. It's the whole life world, and that life world is of the Hopi Indians.
I have actually, it's interesting when you, Henrik, mentioned Hopi Indians. So I will read from this book from page 251. In the last year of his life, Bohm met with a group of Native Americans who were all speakers of the strongly word-based Algonquin family languages. Bohm was struck by the process-based vision of the world, and by the way they themselves viewed the role played by their language. Here was a society, it seemed to him, that practiced what he had envisioned for his real mode, that is the language that Bohm invented. Two linguists, Alan Ford of the University of Montreal and Dan Alford of the California Institute of Integral Studies, both of whom studied Algonquin languages, were present at the meeting and were sympathetic to Bohm's arguments about the real mode. Schumacher, for his part, was dubious about the importance of the real mode and tried to explain to Bohm the position taken by Ludwig Wittgenstein in philosophical investigations.
Spot on.
To Schumacher's surprise, Bohm refused to read Wittgenstein. Just as communication had broken down between Bohm and Einstein, difficulties were now developing between Bohm and Schumacher. Oi, oi, oi. So you see that languages are evolving.
Well, I think I lost my constitution. Maybe this would be a good point to terminate this podcast. Or do you have anything to add? Do you have anything to add, Henry and Kalle?
No.
I just have to say this was incredibly good. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for listening and participating. Okay, take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.